In this module, I want to describe both individual and organizational competencies needed for dealing with disruption. To a significant degree, I will be borrowing ideas from specialists such as Marcus Buckingham, who was with the Gallup organization when he first began writing about necessary managerial competencies, my mentor, Professor Eugene Jennings, one of the top specialists in understanding the skills of success for top executives, and the Harvard Business School professor John Cotter, who has made a career studying managers and executives and describing their attitudes and behaviors that lead them to success in changing environments. Of course, I will also be integrating other ideas with these, since many executives and academics and consultants have been giving attention to these experiences and conclusions. For more in-depth insights, refer to the references in the bibliography that accompanies this presentation. Since the overriding objective for individual and organizational success is to be as surprise-free from critical disruptions as is possible, so as to encourage and allow strategies for reacting to such surprises, we must start with an understanding of how one creates such a surprise-free work environment. The managerial skill that I'm describing here is what my mentor calls functional intelligence, or just FI. In some ways, this is similar to the currently popular concept of emotional intelligence, referred to as EQ, but has specific work-related characteristics that are not present in EQ. In short, functional intelligence refers to the managerial or executive capability to, as the name implies, function intelligently within a constantly changing environment, or one that constantly disrupts your normal ways of operating. Executives with functional intelligence have a clear focus on the big picture, made up of their own and their organization's goals and vision for the future. It is this that guides their behavior and their decision-making. They understand that the critical variable for achieving their goals and visions is to have access to people with different skills, experiences, and contacts than are common in their own work environments, so they can keep informed of what is happening in their relevant environments and thus have a window to awareness of the possible and real disruptions that they need to deal with. These must be contacts who have the interest and the willingness to pass that knowledge and awareness on to the executive, since no executive can be aware of everything happening in his or her areas of responsibility. And often people are afraid to pass on knowledge of problems. These executives develop personal operating styles that reward people for bringing them news of problems and or opportunities for meeting the challenges posed by disruptions. And in a broader sense, they develop and use not just the people near them, but in today's technological world, they take advantage of virtual networks as well, constantly seeking advice and collaboration through various forms of social media to learn how best to react to the many disruptions that confront them. Outside of these aspects of developing and using linkages to colleagues and collaborators, these executives learn to develop 3 specific competencies required to understand and use the information that is made available to them. Listening, asking good questions, and having a sensitivity to understanding the meanings in the words people use to describe the disruptions they are aware of and the opportunities contained in those challenges. They learn to listen, no matter the source of interaction being used, and they learn to use all of them. For example, social media such as blogs, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, email, text messaging on their cell phones, phone conversations, cell or landline, Skype, audio or video, even face-to-face. They continually seek information, advice, and collaboration, both to keep an awareness of what is happening, problem areas within their areas of responsibility, as well as new ideas, new technology, new products, new competition from anywhere in the world, and to get advice and assistance in dealing with this information. In order to successfully take advantage of these linkages, executives have to place high priority on developing and nurturing these networks. As the Sloan Management School at MIT says, what really distinguishes high performers from the rest of the pack is their ability to maintain and leverage personal networks. The most effective create and tap large, diversified networks that are rich in experience and span all organizational boundaries. They understand and take advantage of all of their networks, including their life, social, and work networks. One of the realities in today's world is that you can never predict, although you need to anticipate, where the disruptions will come from. In order to gain full advantage from these linkages, executives have to learn to listen actively for content and meaning. This requires these next two competencies. Successful executives learn to ask good questions. That is, open-ended questions to find out the what, the where, when, how, and who of the issues they hear or see being brought forward. They ask questions to seek new information or to test what they think they know, not to affirm what they already know or think they know. That is, they don't rely on questions that can be answered with a yes or no. And they develop the skill to read the cues or hidden meanings in their colleagues' communications. Sometimes people are afraid to be direct in their communications, so they hide their meanings, or they unintentionally use words or phrases that can suggest information different from what the direct message provides. Successful executives understand this and will be sensitive to this and then ask questions for clarification. If executives do this well, it results in developing attitudes in colleagues for putting first priority on keeping their boss informed of news, disruptors that can lead to trouble, either because it points to the need to change existing operations or it points to new ideas that lead to necessary new directions. Even though it may not seem logical or realistic, this implies that successful executives reward negative news. It gives them lead time for dealing with such disruptors. It allows them to gain enough time so they can be proactive rather than just reactive. And this then encourages subordinates, colleagues, and friends to pass on information that they might otherwise not. Executives and managers in this constantly disrupting world must continually learn from each other and their own experiences. The skills just discussed provide the possibility, that is, the knowledge of how and what to change to respond to the environment. The executive cannot know everything, so setting priority on accessing the knowledge and experience of others is critical to his or her success. This has provided a glimpse at competencies at the individual level that enable executives and managers to gain advantage over negative or positive disruptions. But even if they gain such understanding, They must also be able to use that information to lead changes within their organizations, to halt the negative disruptions, and to move their organizations forward, taking advantage of new ideas and new knowledge that will enhance the organization's ability to survive and thrive in the future. How managers and their organizations deal with radical disruptions and surprises requires a major diversion from how they deal with normal day-to-day operations. The existing structures and processes that together form an organization's operating system need an additional element to address the challenges produced by mounting complexity, disruption, and the need for rapid change. The solution is a second operating system, one that is devoted to the design and implementation of strategy that uses an agile, network-like structure and a very different set of processes. Professor Cotter refers to the characteristics of this new operating system as accelerators, because they basically refer to steps and actions to take to accelerate organizational coping with major disruptions, whether they be a competitor's new technology and products, a retiring workforce coupled with a young workforce with new and challenging work practices and values, or new competition from totally unfamiliar firms from unfamiliar foreign countries. That is, these accelerators help to move the organization forward as quickly as possible. Taken all together, these accelerators enable organizations to cope with major disruptors and to move forward to new capabilities and successes. The 8 major types of accelerators are: 1, the first of these accelerators has to do with creating a sense of urgency around a single big opportunity to deal with a major problem or to adopt a major innovation. Hopefully the organization won't have too many opportunities at a time. If there are multiple such opportunities, then executives must prioritize and focus on the most critical. The core issue here is to create a sense of urgency around the disruptions that occur. People in the organization must realize how important to the continuing success of the organization it is to move forward and move quickly. Often this requires taking a hard look at the current operating system and its products and services and critically evaluating the likelihood of its continuing success. The point is that something has disrupted the traditional system and products, and something must be done to counter the disruption, and quickly. The second accelerator has to do with building and maintaining a guiding coalition. For every disruption that an executive identifies and agrees to focus on, he or she must build a team of people from across the organization whose challenge will be to provide leadership and effort to meet the opportunity presented. This not only convinces a number of people to be devoted to meeting head-on this disruption, but it also brings a leadership team from throughout the organization, crossing departmental and discipline borders, bringing cross-functional passion and urgency, and an organization-wide commitment. This team needs to be made up of people willing to challenge the status quo and with the ability to sell the nature of the problem and the suggested solution to the rest of the organization. As the famous management guru Peter Drucker used to say, whenever you find anything being done in an organization, you will find an egomaniac on a mission. These are the type of people needed to accelerate the achievement of solutions to critical disruptions. The third accelerator involves formulating a strategic vision for the project and developing change initiatives that are designed to capitalize on the big opportunity. This involves identifying initial resources for carrying out the early steps of the innovation, as well as thinking about the organizational barriers that will need to be overcome and whatever trial and error might be needed to show acceptance of the initiative. The fourth accelerator involves constantly communicating the vision and the strategy to create buy-in and attract a growing volunteer army committed to achieving the initiative. As is the rule in any management project, but rarely followed, communicate, communicate, communicate. Use every form of communication possible, from verbal to trial efforts, and use them over and over. With any such effort, it is important to educate as many people as possible about the vision and the process and anticipated consequences. And the more people that can be convinced to help, the better. The fifth accelerator involves doing everything possible to accelerate movement toward the vision and the opportunity by ensuring that the network removes barriers. Every innovation runs up against barriers. The guiding coalition must spend as much effort on work to overcome barriers as it spends on implementing the innovation. The sixth accelerator involves actions to celebrate all visible, significant short-term wins. The volunteers and others who participate in various ways on the project need the recognition of their successes. The seventh accelerator has to do with never letting up, never slowing down, never quitting, and always learning from experience. Of course, this includes the awareness of not declaring victory too soon. And the eighth accelerator includes the effort to institutionalize the strategic changes in the culture. Integrating the changes into the new operating system is key to achieving acceptance and overcoming the effects of the disruption that was the cause of the effort in the first place. These accelerators work because they act concurrently with the original operating system and are always at work. They pull in as many people as possible from throughout the organization to form a volunteer army and require the flexibility and agility of a network. Today, organizations must constantly seek advantage without disrupting daily operations. These accelerators provide the opportunity to accomplish exactly that. Strategy today is a dynamic force that constantly seeks opportunities, identifies initiatives that will capitalize on them, and completes those initiatives swiftly and efficiently. That force is an ongoing process of searching, doing, learning, and modifying, and of the 8 accelerators as the activities that inform strategy and bring it to life. The network and the accelerators serve as a continuous and holistic change function, one that accelerates momentum and agility because it never stops. If you follow these individual and organizational strategies, the more adept you and your organization will be at dealing with your hyper-competitive environment. I wish all of you the best. Thank you.